On Monday, she takes a walk with Johnny. On Tuesday, she has a talk with Jim. On Wednesday, she likes to dance with...
Hello there, Lynn Ferguson here. Welcome to another episode of My Index to Sex, where my pal Seth Haven, at one point #1 escort in America, opens up her magical index box of clients. In each episode, she dips into the box, pulls out a card, and we find out the story of who wanted what and how while wearing no pants.
On Thursday, she takes a chance with Tim.
Oh, wait a minute. Hank, what are you doing down there? You all right? You're down.
I have to go under the desk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you pull out a random card? That's what I
did.
Well, do you know, because I feel like sometimes we should just do it like, like roulette, where we just go, card roulette. 'Cause sometimes, some of these experiences sound a bit too exciting. Well, do they sound
Not.
frightening? Some of them sound a bit frightening. So I'm wondering if just what the day-to-day one was. Just pull one out.
This one is into lumber.
Oh, we're already here. His name's Woody, right?
Well, the funny thing is oh God, I can't forget his name. It's like wood carving, and he's into lumber, and he makes wood product thingies, but that's also the name of his last name, which is, I can't say. Okay.
Chopper. Woody Chopper.
Okay, Woody Chopper.
Woody Chopper. Right, that's who this is. It's Woody Chopper, and he's into lumber. Hey, I have to tell you this so that you know, Seffi, right?
Okay.
That actually lumber, the reason why I'm excited about that is because excited is a strong word. I will say that for you, especially in this podcast. Excited is a strong word. In Scotland, right, a phrase in the west coast of Scotland, if you've got a boyfriend or if you're going courting, people would say, do you have a lumber? Right?
Really?
Or, and if you were saying, or are you dating? They'd go, are you lumbering hen?
Is that because the man has a boner?
Well, no, I think, no. I mean, I think that a woman can be a lumber as well. Just getting yourself a lumber. Maybe it's something to do with the idea. This would be quite Scottish. With the idea that if you got yourself a partner, you'd be carrying the weight of that partner for the rest of your natural life.
Is that really what it is?
I don't know. I just know that it's like you call a lumber. Anyway, back to Woody Chopper.
See, that's so funny because my mind went to, why would they say that? And then I thought, well, maybe like two trees who have planted themselves next to each other. Or maybe the guy has a boner because he's dating you, or I don't know. He's got a
That's
lumber.
why people call you the sexy mermaid, and why nobody in the entirety of my existence has ever considered me anything close to sexy mermaidy. Because I will be saying, well, that's because you carry the weight of that person for the rest of your natural life. Well, as you'll be looking at the moon and star signs and all that stuff and involving sexual organs at the same time. So, Woody Chopper, tell us all about him.
Well,
Does he have a star sign? Have you got a star sign?
oh, I don't know. Let me see. I don't have my
Come on.
Oh, I know. No, I don't on this. Oh, yes, I do. Sorry.
I told you.
Aquarius,
Oh.
which is an air sign, so sometimes they do drift off. I love Aquarius, but they also are really challenging too.
In what way?
Well, they're fascinating people because they see the world in a whole different way, and they're usually brilliant. A lot of politicians like Abraham Lincoln and all these people who are see the world I just find them brilliant. On the other hand, they can be maddening because they are very contrary.
You want to grow the tree, you want to chop the tree down. You want to grow the tree, you want to chop the tree. What do you want? Grow the tree or chop the tree?
Right. And, so I wrote, he arrived 15 minutes late and stayed 30 minutes late.
Not good.
Not good. So I probably compensated. Did I? Yeah, I wrote, the next time he came, I compensated for that time. Okay. Meaning that I was ready 15 minutes early so that I didn't have to give him 30 minutes extra. And probably I would have said to him, if you want to stay late, you're welcome to, but it's this and this price. So he's divorced. Oh, he likes astrology.
Oh, he does?
Mm-hmm. He says likes astrology, very sensitive. He's in the family business, which is lumber.
Well, that's what the Chopper family do.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's now single. He's divorced, 42 years old, a good conversationalist. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I have warning signs to myself. So whenever
Oh.
I've had like little exclamation points before and after, like in a Spanish sentence where they have the question mark before and after a sentence.
Oh.
So I wrote, takes a long time to come, then didn't come, and doesn't want to use condoms, doesn't like condoms, could do 3 hours or more and needs it. But he's a sweetheart and likes pampering, but he's a bit clumsy and needs to stay out of his head. Okay, this is very Aquarian too,
Oh.
in being in their heads. Thinking, but that's Gemini too, I think. Oh God, I'm off on an astrology.
You
rant.
are. That's why
I
they
know,
call
right?
you the sexy mermaid, and why nobody has ever called me remotely a sexy mermaid and never will. See, because what I'm looking at here, Seffi, is on a business level, right? Because you've got the 2 hour segment here, right?
Yeah. So if they go over it, it's a problem.
Right? And if he's taking a long time,
It's a lot of work.
in what way? Like the strokey or the listeny?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think of it, well, this way isn't working, so maybe left hand, maybe right hand, maybe underneath, maybe sideways, maybe he likes it from behind, maybe nipples, maybe include this, maybe I go upside down, maybe it's kind of like what variations which is the one? You pull out all the cards.
A technical question for you. How long would you hang about? So say you were doing the left hand and you're like, well, I'm doing the left hand, doesn't seem to be working. Do you do like a count? Do you do like that thing where you count, like an elephant is 1 second? So you go 1 elephant, 2 elephant. Is it maybe like 90 elephants?
50 Mississippis? No, it's a good question, I guess. That when I mean that when it gets to be that it takes too long is not when I switch from this to this to this necessarily. It's when I get to the place where I'm mentally exhausted from it. Because for a while, I'm totally into whatever we're doing. And I'm like, okay, well, let's switch over here. Let's go over here. This is fun. And then we'll go upside down and everybody turn around and then it's fun. And then at a certain point, I'm realizing that we're getting close to the end of the time. And then it starts to get conscious in my head. So I think, oh, I've got to wrap this up. And how do I make him finish this?
How do you get the train in the station, right?
Yeah,
The choo-choo?
because if he doesn't get the train in the station, then he might be upset and maybe not want to pay me, which wouldn't be right.
No.
But still, nonetheless, I don't want to chance it. I want him to bring the train into the station because that's part of the fun too.
What do you do then? Is there a technical thing? So you say with him, it takes a long time for the train to get to the station, and you know that, right? So on a business level, if you go, all right, he's always late. It takes a while to get the train into the station. So rather than doing my hoo-ha Scheherazade sexy mermaid thing for like 20 minutes, I'm just going to start as soon as he arrives. It's like bun in the oven. Like, okay, woody chopper, we need to get the train in the station. So let's get coal in the fire here and get that train chugging. I mean, do you change the way that you approach it?
I probably did. I think that what happens is when I get to that place, when I used to like it, when it was like getting close to a certain period of time, I would go into my head. So it was no longer fun. It was kind of like, oh, I'm going to work head. And so I think at a certain point in my career, my long career, I got to a place where I didn't take it personally anymore.
Right.
I just thought, well, maybe this is what happens for him in his life, and so instead I would suggest things like I would put his own hand on his own self,
Right.
and then I would do something up by his face, either talk to him in sexy ways, try to talk the train
Out of the
home.
station, yeah. Come on,
Yeah.
everybody aboard. We're all aboard, and we're going on a journey.
Yeah. It's verbal, like you said, women can be heads sometimes. It can be mental pictures for women, but sometimes it helps for men too. So
Does it really? And did it help with Woody Chopper?
I think it probably did because I saw him several times, and each time it says that he must stay. I need to keep him out of his own head, which means not his lower head, but his upper head.
Yeah.
I think that must have been the trick, because men that are in their heads a lot, then a good story, can talk them. You got to just redirect the energy, redirect the story.
Right.
In
In what way? So, for example, in his head, in the sense that he's got all problems and then can't get rid of it?
Thinking
Or...
about something else. He could have ADHD, about something. He could be thinking
Yeah.
about, is it working? He could be thinking whatever he's thinking. But then to get into his head and redirect the thought to a sexual line, to create a storyline,
Yeah.
and you direct his mind down that track for while you have his focus. You know what I mean?
Do you know what's a very interesting thing I'd never thought about is the attitude that people have when they first arrive, right? Like what is like with Woody Chopper, I wonder if he's like, in my head, he's like he wants somebody just to talk to and have some kind of interesting care going on, right? But for some of them, do some people arrive and they're like angry and they have to leave their anger behind before they can enjoy the sexy mermaid time? Or are other people lonely? I mean, is there a generic kind of thing that happens when people walk through the door? Is there a mood that they have?
Well, most men at that time, first of all, I was booked like a month to 2 months in advance. So
Right.
when they called me, there was a lot of anticipation. So they would say, "Oh, I want to see you tomorrow." And I'd say, "Well, I have an availability February 15th." And like, "What?" So by the time they came over and they knew they were going to invest $1,000, and they knew that they were going to be pampered and taken care of, I think their attitude was, "This is going to be great." And they were right to think so, because yes, it was going to be great. But there were a few men that came over with an attitude, but the attitude was part of what they liked to do sexually, like the game that they wanted to play a little bit. Like I think I told you there was a few people, far and few between, but that would come over and say, "What are all these lights doing off? There are too many candles, and I don't like this music."
Nothing says sexy like belligerent. Yeah.
Usually what I would find with those few
Yeah.
people would be that they had a sexual agenda with that. For one of the people I'm thinking of, I'd say, "Okay, what do you want to do then?" Because it would piss me off, and it's rude, and I would try not to let it bother me because, he's only there for 2 hours, and,
Yeah.
it's his choice if he wants to wreck the stage,
Yeah.
If he wants to have the show with no props and no nothing, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I would turn off everything, turn on the bright lights, sit there, and I would say, "What do you want to do?" And he would say, "I don't know, probably nothing. I guess I'm just going to go."
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I would say, finally, I would say, "Okay, but I'm not going to give you a refund. So, because it's my time."
Yeah.
So, "Yeah, of course you're not going to give me a refund. That's what you girls are like."
Oh, really?
And I thought, "Oh, okay, so we're going down a little road here." And his thing was eventually that he would like to play these games, which each time he wanted to play them, he would say he didn't want to. And you should just go. This is stupid,
Wow.
And what the game was, usually he was either this horrible schoolmaster, and I was the terrible co-ed who was just really stupid and just was coming to him last minute because I was getting D's and flunking out. And I just wanted to find a way, maybe raise my grades. And he would say, "You're a slut. You're a bad, bad girl. I can't raise your grade for what are you doing? What are you touching there? Oh, hey, get away from, oh, well, okay, well, And then I used to buy wigs for him because,
Hello?
yeah, so I will
Lady wigs or main wigs?
lady wigs for me.
All right. Oh, I see. No, because I had him being the angry schoolman and he's wearing a lady's wig. And I'm like, no, and don't you look at me like that's an unusual thing. Because sometimes you have talked about people who dress as Superman, right? So, like, that whole thing could happen.
Particularly, I would have different wigs that I got from the store. And so I had one that was very dark black and it was pretty. I looked good as a black hair. Who knew? But he liked her the best. And I out of the blue named her Veronica for no reason. But he would come in and he would do the whole like turn off the music and turn off. After a while, I didn't even put the music and lights on when I knew he was coming over. But he would come in and be gruff and sit in the chair and say, "Yeah, I don't feel good. This isn't going to work. I have a headache. I don't know. I don't even know why I came here. Just take my money, whatever, And then I would say, "Well, do you want to play a game?" "Nah, I mean, in my bag, I have a script." And he would hand me the script. And I would say, "I can't memorize this in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell me the gist?" He said, "Well, why? Can't you read?" So, so I'd have to take a minute to read the script. And usually it was something along the lines of he was this gruff billy goat. Like he looked like a billy goat. He was short like a billy goat. he was completely round with just a billy goat nature. And he would sort of like, when you think of the troll under the bridge with a billy goat, and that was his nature. And I got to know him, so it didn't bother me anymore. And I kind of knew how to tease him and all that. So I actually enjoyed when he came over after a while because it was always going to be weird and fun. But I used to plan, like before he came, I would plan just a little bit beforehand, not so much for him, but for the guy who was going to come next because I had to have everything in place
Right.
because it wasn't going to be worked on with this person there. And afterwards, I had to regroup myself because I'd be wearing wigs, so I'd have to redo my hair. And, there was a lot of reset. So we whatever the script was, it was usually he was some mean old guy, Billy Goat, and he was ugly, and you're gonna have to please this ugly old man. That's what you're gonna have to do in order to get your grades up. You should have just studied during the year, don't be so stupid. And then I'd be like, I'm so sorry, Professor. I don't know what. I was just distracted. Yeah, you were distracted with a bunch of cocks. That's what you were distracted with. No, I didn't. Oh, don't tell me. I heard it all around the school.
Wow, that is amazing. I bet you didn't get his star sign. Did you get his star sign?
I did, actually. I know everybody's star sign. Yeah, that's funny because he was a Capricorn, and that is goat, right?
Oh, and he was like a goat.
Yeah.
Wow. Billy. We should call him Billy the goat. Call him Billy. Oh,
You could call him Billy Goat. I don't know. Yeah.
Because his name probably was Billy, so I'm just...
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
I don't know. We'll call Billy.
Yeah.
Billy Groat.
He used to come over very angry, but that didn't really count. I think what you meant, what do you do when somebody comes over angry? So it used to be not so much angry, but like if somebody's anticipating a date where they're going to be, it's like me or you going to go get a facial and a massage, and you're getting finally this one pampering day, and it's 2 months away, and somebody's gifting it to you. I'm like, oh, this is going to be my day. I'm going to show up like, whoa, take me away. And most men showed up like that, but once in a while they didn't, and I thought, what is going on? And then I found out that a lot of times, no offense against this particular profession, but a lot of times it was doctors. They were just so, unless they were plastic surgeons who were really game, or, sometimes orthopedics were pretty okay too, but but some other doctors were just, and I thought, why is that? So I used to talk about it. We all used to talk about it with each other.
So did escorts not like doctors?
Well, everybody had somebody they blacklisted. Like, what I mean by blacklist is if somebody called and said they were a certain type of MD or something, for me, I would really have to listen on the phone when I talked to him if he was going to be somebody that I wanted to spend 2 hours with, because it was exhausting. It was draining. It usually hurt my feelings in some way. I usually just couldn't. It was, you're a comedian, so it would be like going to a club that nobody's ever going to laugh, and you're like, I played this house before. Yeah, I don't want to play this house ever again. There's a lot of houses that like me. I'm not going back to that pub,
Yeah, I do.
So it was kind of like that but I don't know. And I thought, what is it about them? And one of my friends an escort, who was becoming a doctor, she was putting herself through med school. And she said, well, you know what I think? She said, we're all science nerds, science and math. Yeah. And she said, and that's one thing. So we are not, social to begin with in our younger years. And she said, and then we get into college, and then we have to study so hard. So it's completely focused. Then we get into med school. We have no social life. We have very little social skills, And she said, I think it's just they don't know, how to behave.
It's very interesting, actually, in that they must see the body in a completely different way.
Yeah, much more clinical, maybe?
I don't know. What you talked about with Billy Groat would have offended most people, but you found a way through with that. But so when you said that they hurt your feelings, what do you mean? What would
there was just no way to make them happy. Like when we sat and talked, the first 15 minutes was usually 15 minutes to half an hour, depending if they wanted to, was talking, and I'd be wearing a beautiful, elegant dress, and I'd have champagne and white wine and sparkling water and regular water and all sorts of lovely things for them to have. And we could have this wonderful cocktail moment. Yeah, and so the first 15 minutes to half an hour should be flirting and getting to know you and finding what we had in common, finding like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I've been to Duluth. You know, they have a wonderful pool underground, but you know, whatever. It's just finding things until we're on a clicky kind of, we're friends and we're talking and we're clicking and it's good. And once that's clicking, like the train is moving, you know, then it's time to sort of move on to the next bit. But with doctors, or certain people, mostly doctors though, I couldn't get past the first 5 minutes. Like they weren't sharing. They would answer questions with one word answers, or like, for instance, I'll use Duluth. One person said, I'm from Duluth and I just happened to have gone there. So I brought up things that I knew about Duluth that delighted me.
Yeah.
And instead of going, yeah, and also they would say, mm-hmm. And so there was, you know, it was an end. Boom. It was constant end. No matter what was said. Oh, where did you go to med school? Oh, well, you don't know what I saw in that town? Oh, that must have been fascinating. Mm.
Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah. So how long can you do that? So there was never a clicky going on. And so then it was always off to the bedroom. And then there was just a lot of, there was no flow, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's okay. It's okay for a lot of girls that there's no flow. And if it's 1 hour, that's really great. But mine was 2 hours. And this was, to me, my life too. I wasn't just at work. I was in a moment and I didn't want it to be unpleasant. So I just felt those men were better off with girls who didn't want intimacy or didn't want to play and were better at maybe just 1 hour, come in, no talking, take your pants down, do your thing, and thank you very much, you know.
What do you think that they wanted? I mean, it's very interesting that you bring that up, because a lot of the times when you talk, I get the feeling that people want the connection, or they want something that they couldn't get outside, or they want a little bit of fantasy, or a little bit like, you know, Billy Groat really wants, bless him, you know, I'm guessing he's not, maybe he is a script writer actually, but like, I'm guessing he's got his thing where he's like, oh, I really want to do this play with a sexy lady, but I'll look like a troll. That's never going to happen. So, I know somebody I'll call her, right? What do doctors want? Do you feel like they just want the box ticked? Like, oh, what I need to do is medically, I'll be better if my train leaves the station.
Well, I think like any man, you know, or any person, you know, you have times when you're wanting to have sex, you know, and maybe you want to have sex outside of a conventional way that you're usually having it. But I don't know I think that's all they wanted, though. I think they didn't want or didn't know how to connect or want to connect in any way, which is okay too. You know,
So did you only see them once? Would you see a doctor maybe once, or would you be like on a repeat prescription with one?
I saw doctors, but they were the ones that I saw. There was two that were plastic surgeons, and they're much more fun.
Plastic surgeons are fun.
Yeah, they're fun. They're almost too much fun.
Well, you know, because they're super bright plastic surgeons. That's the deal. Because they're brainy with all the brainy medical stuff, but then they've also got to be artists. So it's a bit like being proper sculptors, but also having to make sure you don't kill anybody in the process of doing that. So it's a lot, actually.
Yeah, plastic surgeons have to be able to talk to people and charm them and understand the insecurities that come from how we look. And so there's a lot of, whereas regular doctors, you go in and they're like, what hurts? You know, or they don't even say, I'm going to prescribe you this. And, you know.
Well, what I'm wondering though, is there any particular brand of doctor that was worse? Like, so if you got, like, say you got a pediatrician or an ear, nose and throat, or a GP, or I don't know, somebody that does, I bet you the gut health ones are difficult. You know, if you're doing like colonoscopies and endoscopies all the time, you probably, you know, because you're going in and out of things and not in a sexy way. So maybe when it comes to in and outness in a sexy way, you're like me, you know.
What I do know is that the ones that I saw that I kind of went, no, I'm not doing this again, were internists of some sort.
Right.
You know, so I don't know exactly what kind they were, but I know that when an MD called, he would usually call, and I'd have to call back at the office to make sure that he was who he said he was. So he would tell me, say you're Susie Baker with, and I told you to call back from such and such insurance company, and that's how I would get through the secretary to get to him. And so I would listen then. I would start the flirtiness on the phone and see how he responded. And sometimes they didn't respond because he was scared that somebody else was listening, something like that. But you could sort of tell after a long time whether he's being private or whether he's just dull and will not be any better than this, whether he can pick up on a joke or not.
I'm sorry for laughing at that, but there's a bit where you go, that must be the worst thing to say to someone. You know what? You are so dull that even when you pay me, I'm still not having the sex with you.
That's how dull you are.
No, that's a whole other level of pain, isn't
That's
it?
right. Well, it really was. Oh my God.
To all sum it up. So if you had a choice, right, as to who you had to see again, right, would it be Woody Chopper with his lumbering business, Billy Groat for naughty schoolgirlness, or any doctor for anything whatsoever?
Oh, I would definitely choose Billy Groat.
You would?
Oh my God, yes. Well, first of all, I wrote that lumbery guy was really nice, but
Took a long time.
But he was late. In coming over, he was late in leaving, and I didn't like to be faced with constantly policing that. And also, took a long time so it took the fun out of it after a while. When it goes from not being natural to being work, it's kind of.
Yeah, also when you're counting to 60 elephants and then you've got to change hands, then you're like, oh, really? There must be easier ways to earn a living, right? That must, you know what I mean? You're standing there in your underwear and you're like, oh, come on, I've got another client in an hour, right?
Although if I evened out the left and the right with however many elephants, it was a good workout. I think, oh, I don't have to go to the gym. This is great. So no, and I definitely wouldn't want the doctors made whatever period, whether it was an hour or 2 hours, but usually 2 hours, made it seem like, oh, forever. And I was, like you said, takes the air out of the room. It was just so exhausting when the person like that left. I was like, I need a nap after this person, even though we didn't do anything.
Did any of them come wearing a white coat?
Not the actual doctors, but I have had men who wanted to play doctor, and then
I mean, you would charge double for that though, because you go, look, I've worked with doctors, I know how unpleasant they are. No, the reason I say it is because when I know that someone's a doctor and they don't wear a white coat, I always think they look a bit surprised. Do you know what I mean? You go, you look a bit surprised. I don't know what that is, and it's because they don't have their coat on.
It's their official uniform. It's like an escort without the lingerie.
Yeah, right?
You look like a regular person.
Yeah, you got sweatpants on. What the hell's wrong with you? Well, like, no to Woody Chopper because he wasn't fast on the axe, right? No to the doctors because the doctors are doctors.
It was kind of exhausting, yeah.
Yeah, but Billy Groat because it was always a surprise.
Well, not so much with that, but once I found my way into who he was.
Yeah.
And I saw the little Tootsie Roll center, the soft bit of him and what was kind of happening for him as a person and why he was like this. And that was the vulnerability core, and so then I couldn't help but adore him because, you see the human thing and that's really beautiful. And I also know that for all his complaining, he came back once a month. So
there you go. I think what I've learned in this last half hour is a variation on that proverb. You know the one, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy? Now, I reckon it's probably more in line with all work and no play means that people won't want to have sex with you even when you're paying them. Also, I've discovered that belligerence is sexy. Who knew that every morning when I wake up and I've not had my first cup of tea, I'm actually just being alluring? Anyway, sadly, that's all from us this episode, but join us next time for more stories from Seth Haven's Mystery Box on
My Index to Sex.
She's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.
You have been listening to My Index to Sex, produced by Ferdal LLC. The music was performed by Chesney Hawkes, and you can learn more about Seffi Haven at seffihaven.com. Go to mitspodcast.com to check out the show notes for more details, including how to stay in touch, give feedback, and ask questions. All the best.
With that bozo of mine, 'cause she's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.